What is happening, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Occasionally Coherent. I am your... I don't know what I am. I'm either a host or co-host or something like that.
You're a guy sitting on a couch.
And my partner in crime tonight or today or whenever you're listening is the lovely Casey.
That's me. Yeah.
In his fresh Five-Finger Death Punch t-shirt.
Thank you. It's actually warm, and I've had the heat running in here because I didn't know when we were going to record, so I had the heat running in here since Thursday or Friday last week. I'm really bad at keeping track of the weather, so I just turned the heat on in here and let it run, so now it's been running for 5 days. So it's actually pretty warm in here. So normally I'm gonna wear a sweatshirt or something like that when we get in here because it's not overly warm in our
Usually there's
in the
cold
wintertime
coming off.
Yeah, we're on concrete, so it's kind of cold.
Yeah.
And I just was moving stuff around, and I was like, I'm getting kind of warm, so I pulled my sweatshirt off, and I had on a Green Bay Packers shirt that's
rather snug,
rather tight. So I was like, that's probably not going to look the greatest on me, and not that I'm put on a few pounds since that shirt was purchased. So I decided to go change, and I saw this one in the dresser.
You pulled that out of the bottom of the laundry basket.
Goose thinks I pulled it out of the bottom of the laundry basket. I definitely pulled it out of my dresser, and it's just a little wrinkly, and it was coated in white dog hair, so I had to give it a quick once over with the lint roller.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. I'm still sporting the typical work from home work attire for me, which includes a collar shirt under a sweater-ish type thing and a pair of sweatpants.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Although I do have the hat on, I don't usually wear the hat while I'm working, but I do once in a while on a Friday.
Yeah,
I'll sport the hat.
Yeah.
But I do. We do at my work is kind of a corporate environment, IT, and we do have the cameras on a fairly regular basis. I'd say probably 2 to 3 days out of the week we'll have the cameras on just to say hi to people face to face or whatever in meetings and stuff. And so I do try to at least look presentable from the gut up, basically.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I did a couple of in the recent weeks. I've done a couple of days working from home, just getting different things done, and I definitely was rocking the sweatpants. Or actually, where my office is inside, it gets really warm in there, so I usually throw on a pair of basketball shorts, and then I'll have my polo or work uniform on top. So yeah,
nice.
it's
very
pretty nice. Yeah, I felt like one of the times I was going to take a selfie and send it to you, but I forgot to.
So normally we're recording on like a Sunday or a Monday, but this week we're recording on a Tuesday, and it just so happens that the past Monday, my work actually opened up the offices, like at the home office. So everybody has the opportunity to work from the office if they want. Well, I was gonna work from the office on Monday, and then I ended up having to have some meetings that were very private that I needed to have like privacy. So it's like, why go to the office if I'm not going to have privacy for these meetings without like hunting down a space? But so I just thought I'm just going to stay home. So then I decided, I made a executive decision that I'm just going to be remote.
Yeah.
I'm going to give up my parking spot and everything, I think, because it just doesn't make sense, especially with gas the way it is. And I heard that I saw a thing on the news tonight that the traffic has increased 25% since the beginning of the year. So we're less than 3 months into the year, and traffic has gone up 25%, despite the fact that gas prices have gone up like 30%.
I would even argue that they've gone up more than that. It was. I mean, were we at less than $3 a gallon?
Yeah, so we've gone up $1 from 3 to 4. That's 30%.
Bad math on my part.
Math is tough.
Yeah.
So I kind of made that executive decision. So for the viewers and listeners, Casey and I are again Captain Kriegsless this evening, or this for this episode, as Captain Kriegs is in the throes of the moving situation. So they got their appraisal on their new house today, and it came in real nice. So they were happy about that today. He'll be in the area, so I'm imagining we're probably within a month. We're probably a month away from like recording all of us in the studio together.
Yeah, that's the idea. We want to record in person as much as possible. From my standpoint, as the one who does the editing,
I'm sure that's easier.
Way easier that way, and then it is just nice to have everybody in studio. Working on potentially trying to get Smelly Cat in studio with us next week. So hopefully we'll have a
That'd
replacement for Captain Kriegs on our.
I was gonna invite her for today's episode, but she had plans to go drink margaritas. So
yeah, I understand that.
Yeah,
definitely.
I'd much rather be doing that. Probably. No offense.
No, I understand completely. Actually, fun fact, Goose walked in and handed me some margarita glasses that I had left at his place. And he was like, go ahead and fill one of those up for me. And I'm like, I actually can if you want me to. But he's like, nope, I got work meetings after
I actually have meetings, meetings after this. So I'm like, I probably shouldn't. As much as I'd like to, I'd probably say something stupid in a work meeting. And I don't want to do that.
Right. Yeah. No, it's been an interesting few weeks. I don't think I've ever experienced a busier time in my life, and I know like it's not like anything majorly entertaining is happening to me. It's just all just a lot of shit is happening, and dealing with that is incredibly tough. From a mental standpoint, from a physical standpoint, and so one of the questions. I'm 25. Yes, no, I'm 26. What year? It's 22.
It's 22.
So I'm 26. I was born in 95. So yeah, I'm 26. Goose is 50 something.
Yeah, that's
50
good.
something. Does that work?
That's good.
Yeah. So roughly twice my age. So from me to you, and I mean, obviously, like we're father and son, so we've talked in the past on dealing with stress and whatnot. But for listeners out there, so in your experience, so you've obviously in your probably 30 years of being away from home, being kind of out on your own. What has been your crazy times in your life, and how have you dealt with that stress on one thing after another? It seems like everything after 6 months of nothing going on, then all of a sudden one thing after another, just boom, 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 it's all happening at the same time. How have you dealt with that in the past as far as dealing with that stress?
I think ultimately I was blessed with patience for the most part. There probably could be some arguing that, but for the most part, I was blessed with patience. Probably came down through Grandma Goose. And so I've never, I've always felt like I could rise above or overcome whatever stress comes my way. And I don't know if that's like a self-confidence thing or just a narcissism thing or if it's, some kind of truthful just methodology that was built into me growing up. But I've never been super stressed out about what life throws at me. Certainly I have been stressed out about stuff, don't get me wrong. And certainly I've been very busy with stuff. I don't know. I'm like trying to think of a specific scenario, but to me, I think the busiest times in my life were probably when you guys were young.
Sure.
I think of when I first started working for the company that I work for now. I worked 12-hour shifts in a manufacturing plant. I worked, there were some weeks where I worked 5 days a week, 12-hour shifts, so that's a lot of work time. And every month I switched from days to nights, so I can remember coming home, in the morning after a 12-hour night shift, coming home at 7 in the morning to you guys up and Adam, and like there was no way I was going to get any sleep. So I'd be up for a while, and then I'd try to get a little bit of a nap in, and then I'd have to go right back to work.
Sure.
And I can remember there actually was one time I fell asleep on the way home from work. I don't know if you remember that.
I think I remember you telling a story about it, but I don't necessarily remember it specifically.
Yeah, there was one time where it finally caught up to me, and I fell asleep on the way home. It probably was half because I had a bad exhaust system on my car too. I probably got a little bit of exhaust in the cabin that kind of helped, but yeah, that was bad. And at that point I was like, you know what, I gotta make sure I'm getting my sleep. And I'm sure there was probably more stress for you guys because I was like, no, I can't stay up, I gotta get some sleep.
Yeah.
At that point, but you guys were pretty young, so you were pretty resilient. And so yeah, I mean, I can think too, like there was a point in time where we technically owned 2 houses because we had our first place that we bought was very cheap. So literally, like I just bought the truck. The lease was up on my pickup truck, and so I bought it out, and I literally paid only a couple thousand less for the truck than I did for that first house.
Dang.
So, I mean, I think we paid like 36 grand for that house. But I mean, you still had a house payment, and
Right.
The place that we live in now, when we found it, we were very excited, and we weren't necessarily looking for a house, but we really wanted this place based on the location and the price. And so we bought it without pre-approval or anything. Back then, places weren't selling as fast, but so you could get away with that. And we ultimately decided to just keep the old house and make payments on both, and then rent out the old one and see about, if we ever wanted to fix it up or keep it as a rental or whatever. And that was a little bit stressful because it was like, if something happens bad to that place, like we got to replace the furnace or we got to replace whatever, like I can't half-ass it, and get away with that because it's a rental. You got to make sure that you're following the rules or whatever. And so knowing how close the margins were every month and having that kind of hanging over definitely was stressful. And ultimately we decided to just sell it. And we came out okay on that whole deal, but that was stressful. So probably the biggest stresses for me have been less work time, and family time related versus just plain not enough hours in the day, and financial stress, I think.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Another stressful time was when I was going to school too, when you guys were young, getting my degree and doing night classes and working full time, and that was tough because there was definitely things I wanted to do that I couldn't because I had to get schoolwork done.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that has been a huge challenge for me in my professional and even a little bit in my home life is just the time management. I feel like I live my life almost in half an hour increments at a time. Okay, at work, I got a meeting, slot out a half an hour for it, unless I know that it's going to be longer than that, then I'll slot an hour for it. But I don't do the 5 minutes, 15 minutes or anything like that. And I feel like there's a lot of times at home where I'm doing the same thing, like cooking dinner. If I get home at 6, my plan is I'm probably going to be cooking dinner from 6 to 6:30. Then I'm probably going to be eating from 6:30 to 7 or 7:30, depending on what the meal is. And then from 7:30 to 8 o'clock, cleaning up dinner. From 8 o'clock to 8:30, I'm going to take a shower. From 8:30 to 9 o'clock, I'm watching a TV show. 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, I'm reading a book or something like I I've tried to plan my life out in that sense, and I don't know if that's caused more stress or less stress. But the time management and figuring out enough time in the day to get all of the stuff done that you need to get done, because then also in that time frame, if there's stuff that I need to get done at home, that's what needs to get done at home, and that's the time that I have to do that. So, and that's led to, picking up fast food on the way home, or skipping the reading, or skipping the cleaning up dinner and just leaving it for the next night. And, some of that stuff gets left out that probably shouldn't get left out, and and then you feel, it's almost like you feel worse after than not. So that's always been a big challenge for me. And then obviously in my professional life, like planning out, like, here's all of your responsibilities at work, and then you have the time, the 8 hours of the day to get it done. If you don't get it done in those 8 hours, you come back for the next 8 hours and do them that way. And that's always been, it's a huge excuse me, it's been a huge, I wouldn't say disadvantage, but it's just been a big I don't even know what word I'm looking for there, but challenge, sure. Yeah. With the labor shortage and all of that stuff going on, like, companies are,
do you really
kind
feel
of in
like
between.
There's a labor shortage versus like 2-3 years ago? I mean, you've been doing your job now for a few years. I mean, you guys have struggled to get people in positions for a while. Like, has it ever not been a struggle?
I would definitely say in the last, like, most companies, if you work for a larger company, you have your internal job board. So you get kind of like, hey, here's all of the jobs that we're hiring for. And most companies have a policy in place where they offer them internally first. Like, that's just usually how things work. That might be part of equal opportunity employment. I'm not sure. And I've never seen that list as long as it is. That all, like, and that could be a sign of a growing company too. Like, it's not necessarily that. And it is a growing company. Like, don't get me wrong. And like, you'd probably be hard pressed to find a not growing company right now.
Right.
But
true.
So I think that some of it is from growing, but there definitely is that labor shortage, because I've hired for positions that would be reporting to me, and they have taken a very long time to get somebody in. Like, it's definitely very, it's very noticeable. And then I've noticed it a lot. Like, there's a lot of places, like regular stops for me, that they're adjusting their hours and they're not open as often because they don't have anybody to work the hours that they normally used to be open.
I've seen that too. I think part of it is, in order to keep the people they have, they're not asking people to work extra or to cover harder shifts. It seems like, anyway. Right. I don't know. I don't know. I have mixed feelings on this whole quote unquote labor shortage thing. I mean, obviously more people are working now than they were a year or two ago because of COVID, because COVID kind of shut down a lot of, I think of the corporate office where I was working. You think about all the people that were there to support that. We had multiple cafeterias. We had literally an employee mall there with multiple businesses. There was a Subway there. I'm sure that all the people that worked at that Subway, they're not working there, Right. So those people are somewhere. They weren't working like I say, a year or two ago, probably because of COVID. When we shut down, they were probably SOL. Right. But those people are in the market now somewhere, in the market for a job. So I don't know. It's interesting. I do think, there's this whole adjustment of wages that's going to happen. People are going to figure out how much people are really worth. I think a lot of people were being underpaid for what they were providing. And then I think the other thing is it feels like, and I don't know, it might be overrated or overstated. It feels like there's a more of a crisis of work ethic than there is of actual workers. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but I personally haven't experienced it directly other than your typical service challenges.
Right.
I don't feel like people are as friendly from a service perspective as they used to be. But certainly other people that I know that are hiring or working with people in mid to entry level positions are experiencing people signing up to work who call in sick for a week, take a week of sick pay, and then just leave.
Yeah.
It's like,
yep.
How do people live with themselves? Like, how do you do that and look in the mirror?
Yeah, that's definitely something that I've definitely never understood is like I don't want to call it taking advantage of your workplace, but you know what I mean when I'm the flaky just
yeah.
I don't know. I'm not, and that's maybe that's just the difference in work ethic that you were talking about, and I don't want to get super political about it or anything like that, but it's definitely a lot has changed in the last 2 years, like exponential change, not just like obviously things are just going to change over time, but it's been accelerated change over these last few years, and I think that there it's probably that kind of combination of lack of work ethic and people not willing to work for pennies to do dollars worth of work, and we're seeing kind of maybe a revolution of, hey, this is what I'm worth. If you're going to pay me this, then great. And I think one of the videos that I watched talked about our nurses in healthcare. They're going to the hospitals or the clinics or whoever they're working for and saying, hey, I want to raise to this amount, and they're saying, nope, we can't do that. And then they say, hey, okay, I'm quitting, then I'm done. And then they'll come back to him and say, the same person will come back to him and say, hey, I'm a traveling nurse, and here's my hourly rate. I see you have some shifts that need to be filled. Can I fill them? And that's what you have to pay me. And that's how they're getting their raises, and these hospitals are having to bring them on to do that. And it's very interesting, like there's a disconnect there, and I don't know how that communication gets fixed.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Yep. Yeah, it's weird. It's a different dynamic right now, for sure. Like in my lifetime, I can't remember a similar scenario. I mean, obviously the pandemic is something we haven't seen for 100 years as a society in the U.S. So nobody has anything that they can mentally go back and compare it to. So it's uncharted territory. It's interesting for sure. I feel like we could be, especially now that with Russia invading Ukraine, and that really has an effect on energy. I think we could kind of start to see something similar to what we saw like in the early 70s with the energy crunch. And I think we could see some of the similar effects that we had, in the 70s. We could start to see those over the next few years. The blessing, I think, for like where you and I are at in our lives is, we're fairly stable situation. And I think, what that energy crunch brought was kind of a slowing down of things. And I don't think we really have a lot to lose through that. If things slow down, I think we're okay. So.
Yeah. And I mean, I really hope it's not coming across like I'm complaining about the hard times that I'm in or anything like that. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, life has been pretty tough these last few months as far as just, we went, like I said, and it's a real life thing going on. We went literally like 6 months where nothing was happening. Like, we were just going to work, coming home.
Yeah.
There really wasn't much going on, and that's
Yeah.
totally fine. Like, life was just slow for a very long period of time, and then all of a sudden it was like February hit, and it was just like off to the races. Just all of this stuff going on in our lives, and all of these different changes that we're going to be going through, and it's crazy. Like trying to buy a house, trying to plan on moving, and all of this other stuff. It is just not. And then work stuff, changing jobs, and changing, and all of this other stuff, and it's just been
it's
hard.
been
It's hard
crazy.
to catch your breath, honestly.
Yeah, no doubt.
So
No doubt.
but yeah, other than that, I mean, what else has been going on, Goose? How have you been?
Last weekend I went down by Captain Krieg's for the weekend to play in a tournament and did some. They have this huge antique mall. I think we've talked about it on the pod before down in Des Moines. They have a huge antique mall, and I'm a big antiquer.
Mm-hmm.
Some specific things that I look for. So, Captain Krieg's and Lem, bless their hearts, said, hey, if you want to get to this place before we move, you should come down. And so they enabled me to get there and spend some quality time there going through everything. And we managed to get through it all in about 3 hours. I mean,
That's about right.
huge. To be fair, it is huge. And of course, one of the things that I look for is vinyl, for the turntable. So looking through vinyl can take time, because a lot of times you go by one of these stands, they got a stack of vinyl. Well, you got to look through and see if there's something in there that you want. So I ended up buying probably, 15 albums, 20 albums, something like that. Found some really good ones that I didn't have that I was looking for, so that was really good. Found a few comics. Found trying to think what else. I was looking for some cast iron, but I didn't find any cast iron. But yeah, I had a good time down there. It was really nice. It was funny. I haven't taken any car trips for quite a while, and I told Captain Krieg's last Friday, I'm like, I'm looking forward to just jumping in the car and driving. That's one of the reasons, I live a long ways away from the office, and it's like an hour drive each way. I do enjoy driving, especially a decent car, a decent, dependable car. It's a joy to drive. So, so that was nice just to get out and drive, for me. So spent some time listening to some pods and listening to some books on tape and stuff. So that's good. Yeah. How about you?
Goose has always been, I want to say, like a closeted road trip junkie. Like,
it's
like,
true.
Definitely.
It's
like
definitely true.
You're 9 times out of 10, if we're taking a long trip and Goose is involved, Goose is most likely going to be the one driving.
Yeah, that's very true.
But then Goose also is the one who gets to control the radio, so that's
also
when we
true.
get to listen to some tunes, listen to a little bit of Rush, and
maybe some public radio.
Radio for sure. Maybe that's where my love of podcasts came in, just those long trips and
could be
public radio and different sports talk radios, whatever else we would listen to.
Dude. So, for the listeners out there, I know a lot of people are really into these true crime podcasts now. I get some regular emails, like I think they call them e-zines or whatever. It's like a magazine, maybe like a weekly, that some of these institutes of higher education and places will put out. One of them that I get is from MIT. It's the MIT Technology Review. Is their they do like a weekly, I don't know what you call it. It's an email, but there's all kinds of really cool educational / future forward thinking. What are the next mega trends? That type of thing. And that's just interesting to me. But one of the things that they were looking at is the origins of COVID-19. And they decided to put out a podcast, kind of like a true crime type podcast about the origins of COVID-19. And it's called Curious Circumstance.
Interesting.
That's the name of the pod, and they have a investigative reporter who is kind of like collecting facts about trying to figure out where this virus actually came from. Did it come from a cave? Did it come from some lab? Did it come from some meat market? Whatever. Like, where did it start really? And there's 3 episodes out there now, and so I listened to that on my way down.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I want to listen to this and just see what they say, and it is really interesting. Very interesting. There's and the name of the podcast is very apt because it's a very curious coincidence that literally, like, the world's top coronavirus laboratory is in Wuhan, China, which is where this coronavirus happened to originate. And they interviewed like all kinds of like highfalutin, big head World Health Organization people, stuff like that, about the whole thing. And it's interesting that they talk. I don't know. Is this a rabbit hole I'm okay to go down?
Go for it. We're occasionally coherent. We're going to talk about whatever
true.
we want to talk about, and if maybe we'll make sense about it, maybe we won't. It's just kind of it's our deal. It's
a major rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So like they talk about how if this laboratory was in the U.S., we would have no problem like trying to determine if the virus actually came from the lab versus if it came from, I'll call it, the wild. But the interesting thing is the way a virus mutates, it's kind of, they say it's kind of like a tree. So the tree grows up and it starts to branch out in all these different directions. And a virus that came out, one of these viruses that came out 3 months ago would be further up the branch, and the now version is further down the branch. So you can tell that it's, when you break down the molecular structure of the virus, the further down the branch, the newer the virus, you can tell like where it came from, right? So one interesting thing is they did track down one of the origins of this coronavirus of COVID-19 was this seaside fish market place. And of course, one of the theories is there's somebody was illegally selling bats or whatever, and these bats had the virus, blah blah blah. Fine and dandy. That was definitely a source of this COVID-19. However, a bunch of people that they also pulled samples from never went to that market, never were around that market, and the COVID-19 virus that they have, when you break it down, is an earlier version of the one that came out in the fish market. So now they basically can say, yeah, the fish market was kind of like a super spreader type thing. However, the virus was in the wild before that. So then it becomes, okay, so how did these other people get it? And they start like backing it up. And so part of the thing is, like I was saying before, and if it was a lab in the U.S., you would have access, right? Because we have, we're a free society. We have, we can request access to government records, blah, blah, blah. Well, in China, you can't do that. And literally all of these World Health Organization experts in that have said, look, we can say that it is likely that this virus started in the wild. However, we cannot rule out the lab kind of experiment gone bad scenario, because they don't let us come into their lab and see, look at their records, look at what they were doing, and try to figure out if there was something that could have happened there. They don't let them do that because it's China, they're not going to let them. So then, and the other thing is there's one indicator on the COVID-19 virus. There is a specific, identifier or some portion of that COVID-19, the molecule or whatever, that is, there's lots of different attributes that they can see or measure or whatever. One of the attributes is a certain nodule or something that makes the virus a little bit more contagious. And this nodule is present on COVID-19. That in and of itself is not like alarming. It's there, for whatever reason, it's there. The however is the COVID-19 virus in every other aspect looks wild, except that nodule. And when the Chinese lab first reported COVID-19, and they did a huge analysis on COVID-19, and even compared it to the SARS virus and previous viruses. They put out this big analysis, put it in the Lancet or one of the big medical magazines. Did not say anything about this one nodule. That is also happens to be a nodule that many labs will use to make a virus more virulent so they can study it easier. So it's like curious circumstance. So that made the drive nice. Going down, was listening to that.
There you go.
Got down that rabbit hole a little bit. I haven't seen another episode yet, so I'm hoping they continue on, because it's definitely done in a way that makes you think. It just makes you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not accusing them of anything. It's just pointing out facts, basically.
Right.
So I'm still undecided as far as if I think it was like a thing in the wild, or a thing that happened in a lab that went bad or whatever. But anyway, I mean, it's neither here nor there. Ultimately,
right.
At the end of the day, it is what it is. It can't. It's here now, here to stay. So, yeah. So
yeah.
It sounds like things are getting bad again in China, or at least
they've Shanghai or something like that.
Well, yeah, they've had over 5,000 new cases in a day, which is the most they've had since the beginning. So,
yeah.
And somewhere else too, they said that it's going back up, but I have a feeling this is just going to be our new normal. It's going to go up and down, and hopefully we get this vaccine they've been talking about that gives you immunity to all coronaviruses.
There we go.
Yeah, that's what they're talking about. So, yeah.
So, well, I think that we'll end things on that one. Lovely truck driving by. Hopefully, I'm
nice truck driving by just in time for the end of the pod here.
Yep. Oh man. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Sorry that this wasn't as lighthearted of an episode as we've done in the past, but
yeah,
it is what it is.
We're lighthearted.
Well, we mean well. We mean to be, like I said, we're not claiming to be experts on anything. We're just out here talking, having a conversation,
just trying to be occasionally coherent.
That's right. All right. Thanks everyone.
All right. I'm good.